This may be the final Webot report. Da-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na-na. It's the final Webot report. This might be, he said. I think this is going to be the very last ALTA report we do here at Half Past Human. Cliff High. Focusing mostly going forward now, if not completely, I guess, on cryptocurrency stuff. Which is fine. Great. So, let's get on with it. As you know, this report can be purchased. halfpasthuman.com. He accepts crypto as payment. He accepts, I think, PayPal, whatever. And I do summaries of these. I usually will spend 30 minutes roughly doing a summary, which he's graciously allowed me to do. And yes, there's gonna be a bunch of missing stuff that maybe you thought would be more interesting, is more interesting than what I think. Therefore, I didn't include it. But it's there. So if you really want to know what it all is in this, go buy a report from him. Again, Webot report, it's not perfect. It doesn't have 100% accuracy, not even close. It gets many things right. It gets many things wrong. The fact that what it gets right, to me, is beyond any possibility of chance when you look at some of the details. I've just been fascinated with this, and that's why I do these videos. So here we go. Now the root of the problem starts to reveal. The data sets have cracks in the earth showing root-like patterns that will span huge distances. Other references for roots include data for root disease that will be rising into global general awareness. This root disease will be cross-species and is indicated to be threatening to global food crops. These sets are also gaining new support for conditional support for disease patterns that are showing as being destructive to food crops. The new lands forms are the more intriguing of the data sets. Many different damage sets, of course, are existent within the earthquake subsets, including devastation and left as rubble, but those growing the fastest with new supporting values include new landforms. These sets are suggesting that a marina with multi-million-dollar yachts as well as condos around it will be first flooded, then left dry as the new landforms will be rising up nearby. The data sets would have the left dry part or aspect being caused by blockage of a natural wall. Remember, we just had a mile-long island show up off the coast, remember? Out of nowhere. That was not too long ago. I talked about that one. So I guess he's saying expect more of that, except the next one, or at least it'll make some news for sure, is going to affect some condos in the marina. More sets for the reappearance of sounds and strange noises from deep in Earth. Do you remember that back in the day? Webbot nailed that one. Weird sounds coming from the Earth. Many of these sets are cross-linked over to Space Goat's farts entity, or outer space woo-woo, where we have new terminating subsets that include plasma and generators. Global pop entity. The datasets have global pop via internet being reactive to information floods that are described as draining of energy to absorb. These sets are describing a flood that is going to wash over the global body politic as scandals and excesses and crimes come pouring out over humanity. Data growth in sets that are focused on deluge, overwhelming, inundation, and other language going to the flood of information. The information sets are dominated in impact and duration values by descriptors including scandals, litany, and a liturgical meaning, including a list of the dead, and nautical, a list of the missing at sea, legends of large crimes, arguments around weapons, accidental damaging weapons discharge, and many other sets going to power sources. The data sets have fast reaction and changes to or at several levels, including Earth changes and planetary manifestations occurring over September through November. Many of these changes are also political and financial. The labor component to global population economy is also gaining new values for rebuilding efforts. These are in direct response to the changing weather patterns and the horrific flooding levels. The idea coming from these sets is that sudden and catastrophic flooding will be causing such large levels of damage to urban life in so many places, Houston acknowledged, but only to be one of many, as to cause labor pattern shifts that are forecast to be persistent at least 20 years. Many of these sets are describing cities being altered, including hillsides sliding into valleys and plains. Forward movement within new political groups is indicated as a global phenomenon after the events at the end of September. As model spaces progress into October, the residual after impact will still be lingering, and the sudden shifts of world power will be appearing with the change of perspective to be emerging at that time. The data would have the end of September be the beginning of a month of consequences. These sets are suggesting that the consequences will be of very large scale in some instances, as there are forecasts for massive population relocation from natural and man-made disasters. These are described as truly staggering in terms of the size of population being relocated, as well as the duration of impact on both the places abandoned and newly arrived. Most of these sets have geographic references within the Northern Hemisphere. A good portion of the emotional tone increases for global pop that appear over fall of 2017, Northern Hemisphere, are deriving from sets for arrests. These arrests and parades of the arrested are not mass arrests, but rather are indicated to be both targeted as well as extremely selective. These arrest sets are seemingly referring to global personalities who will be discussed and arrested for months within independent media, and curiously are to be ignored, maybe he should say not too curiously, to be ignored within mainstream or corporate propaganda media for the first month or so following the arrests. After that time, the data sets accruing to model space suggest that the mainstream propaganda media will be forced to cover, albeit with their spin dripping from each word, the arrests and the personalities involved. These sets are incidentally cross-linked over to other global pop sets with termination points for reduced tensions and crumbling organizations. I wonder if the Clinton Foundation is going to finally, keel over. Antarctica pop. This is a very short one. Again, I've picked and choose things. I got to keep certain ones short so I can keep going to the next one. Antarctica pop is being created as its own entity within global pop due to the growing human population in Antarctica. The processing for this entity produces a view of the data that suggests that Antarctica will become the point or source for historical disclosure over these next 4 years. These sets are continuations of the sets for Antarctica that lead to a sci-fi world forecast for humanity. Data sets include historical humans, history rewritten, secrets revealed, history hidden, history obscured, and many more of similar language. Australia pop. While the data forecast that the headlines will be crying, "Stop it!" the Australia pop entity has new growth for yet more politicians swimming in corruption, new supporting sets for cross-range deals involving some form of currency floats, have their own supporting sets forecasting the rising distance/delta trading. These sets would seem to be suggesting that personalities within the politicians class may have been deliberately manipulating the Australian currency for their own gains. Probably wrong. Politicians would never be screwing their own citizens just for profit. Other Australia pop sets have the Great Australian Pyramid starting to poke into the global public consciousness as new information is indicated to surface from a sunken wreck, hidden cache, or submerged hidden evidence. These new data sets and supporting positions for Australian Pyramid include descriptors for government denial about the newly surfaced evidence. Other sets are also holding UFO as rising supporting linguistic structures that bring in sighting and video. Some of these subsets also include sets for emerging changing scenes. These sets provide the idea of a group of tourists near or at the Great Australian Pyramid who will be video recording themselves when a burst, gang/group/collection of UFOs will be recorded. The data suggests that this sighting will be even more remarkable in that it will also show pyramid activity of some unknown form. There are some sets suggesting that we may be seeing light and electrical activities from the pyramid. Canada Pop. The Canada Pop sets are gaining the most emotional support from sets including foreclosure and trauma. These sets are at the same level of tertiary support and are forecast to have the same nearly level of impact on the Canada Pop national psyche as measured by our emotional tone sums. The difference between the two sets is the temporal span for each. In the case of the foreclosure sets, the data has these being discussed discussion focal points for most of the next decade. The trauma subsets appears in model space over September and firms up in October. These sets then fade rapidly over the course of January and February of 2018. Most of the sets are seemingly related to electrical power. While this is less than illuminating, chuckle here, there are a number of supporting sets that go to providing even more opaque thinking as we get descriptors for humans, UFOs, electrical substation, legendary, electrical arcs, national lightning, continental squeeze, pressure, convection currents, danger, electrocution, and many other other sets blending electricity related language and some form of continental impact. It would seem from these sets that a very traumatic occurrence is pending. However, these are Canadians, no offense offered, and they are not known as drama addicts. So what is the data talking about? Well, it may be at a very loose level of interpretation that the National Continental Display is some form of a UFO flyover that results in electrical substation failures. There are a number of rising supporting sets that would go to this interpretation, including descriptors for mass breakdowns of automobiles while in transit, yet more data for fires, by the way, and curiously, in the rainy season. Deutsche Pop. Not known for seismic activities, Deutsche Pop entity area is suggesting that the German people are going to experience an earthquake that will, for them, be of historic level. The language in the supporting subsets, the language in the supporting subsets includes many references to CERN, the LHC, Large Hadron Collider. There are many crosslinks tying this incident to subsets that include bell ringing and towers shaking. Yet more data continues to grow under several different meanings for explosive. Now, this part got me. I was like, wait a minute. I just did a video about this thing on Zero Hedge. They're evacuating, a large area in Germany, Frankfurt. They found an old World War II bomb, and they've got to remove all the new gold they just got into the vault out of the central bank. We're going to remove all the gold out, plus what we had in there. We're going to, in case the bomb goes off when we disarm it. Insane. This is unbelievable to me. However, and I said, imagine if this, they're out there tinkering with this thing, like it's actually a real bomb for whatever reason. They tinker with it and it explodes. Anyways, yet more data continues to grow under several different meanings for explosive. We have explosive as in blowing things up, as well as explosive in the form of natural gases building up in a contained space, and explosive in the meaning of humans with fuses lit, as in engaged. This latter meaning has the larger emotional values by far, and also has supporting sets for new endeavors and draining away of resources from other activities. These sets are also containing new businesses and divergence of platforms. This last descriptor set also contains language suggesting some of the larger social patterns of the last 40 years are going to be appended and overturned by rapid deployment of new technology. USA Pop. Get ready for the unveiling of sci-fi world over the next few years in ways the data describes as shocking and not imagined. The forecast is for revelation of the real understanding of human history here on Earth. These sets are also concurrent with political turmoil, officialdom chaos, crashing debt markets, erupting volcanoes, earthquakes, broken pipelines, destroyed buildings, and many other sets of real disaster within USA Pop for the end of summer and the transition into fall 2017. Now, of course, granted, a lot of that was just filled by this hurricane that hit Texas, and so you could argue, though, he already did it after the fact. But remember, he's compiling this data for at least a month in advance and then interpreting it. So, anyways, I'm not making it excuses. We got this other one, Irma, could be a Category 6. We don't even have a Category 6. Imagine if it hits. Then this all of a sudden becomes immediately filled. This would be absolutely devastating. The data sets have the various power structures across the Western republics being assaulted by the dirt and corruption being brought up by the resignation of key people within key slots across the sublayer of the USA governance infrastructure. The data is basically saying that minor level workers in government agencies are going to resign as part of internal money politics and a result of the lack the result of the lack of person within the slot with or will set off many divergent streams of corruption being exposed, as there will be the lack of a paymaster to hand out hush money. This kind of thing has been in some of the other previous reports, by the way, like older ones, like this here. Other impacts of the resignations wave are forecast as including breakdowns in money collections, parking, that are going to lead to news stories about corruption at the level of quarters, nickels, and dimes. Further sets are going to the idea of the resignations revealing storehouses of surplus materials that will be jammed with stolen items. Other sets have breakdowns in funding flows show up with whole cities being cut off from public services, water, as payment mechanisms will also be broken by the lack of personnel. Our data sets have the legacy of the American solar eclipse being a super stormy September, noting all of the political storms that will be ongoing during September. We also can add hurricanes, tornadoes, and all manner of freak storms. Please note the language. The words for freak and freakish attached to storms are rising in all the USA Pop supporting sets related to weather. The other storms are showing up as being man-made. These sets are in context for politics, religion, money, military, and judicial. These sets are increasing in their numeric values for intensity, duration, motivation, action, emotion, and even the constraints. That all of the top 6 value sets are rising simultaneously is not a good sign for a calm and orderly fall season. As model spaces progress into 2018, the values wax and wane to a lesser degree than what we consider usual, and they are doing so from much elevated levels. As model space moves through December and into spring of 2018, the intensity values escalate rapidly in the context of money and climate/weather. These sets and supporting positions under money within the USA Pop entity are clearly focusing on the reasons for rising cryptocurrency prices in US dollar terms. The data sets for USA Pop are more divergent than has been seen in model space over the last decade. The divergence has the growing set of the dropout cryptocurrencies unplugged off the grid, part of the USA Pop having a creative and positive mood with high levels of energy. The other larger majority of USA Pop is described within the same level of response to the unknown energies from space, but focusing on confrontation and narrowing of focus rather than the expansive and creative new view being demonstrated within the cryptocurrencies economy. Other sets are showing that a great amount of words run amok will be spewing out as the language shifts to Kennedy's ghost as a central meme with lots of language about assassination. These data sets are suggesting that the language of the body politic will be centering on assassination of JFK in language in the months of September and October. These sets are deeply cross-linked with any number of both conspiracy and religion subsets. The religion subsets have a wide range from astrology through to extreme fundamentalism of many different types. All of these sets are inclusive of the Kennedy's ghost language. All of these sets are cross-linked into both the global politic entity and the Space Ghost Farts entity, where we have the majority of the cross-links focused on astronomic alignment and grand conspiracy, along with deep state. Further, within the global pop sets are descriptors indicating a very widespread discussion of assassination as a tool of the state against its own political class. Other sets that are cross-linked into the shades, ghosts, and recurrences and great conspiracies. These sets include descriptors for documents and history and secrets revealed. The secrets revealed subsets form a large nexus of cross-links around the language for replications or repeats or similar situation or template. Many of these sets are indicating that the discussion around the assassination language will be focused on left turns. Other sets have descriptors for outer space and space intrusions into the language. These sets would seem to be relating to astrology. Other sets would have active be associated with the intrusions, so there is some doubt as to just what may intrude from outer space, but not from where it will originate, nor its state of being, as in agitated, active, energetic, oily, sustained pressure, bubbling, pulsing, intermittent, and others along the same line. Divergent sets go to separation, impossible view, minute by minute, modification, yet more secrets revealed, and these include scientific and instructions. Admittedly, a confusing mass of disparate language. However, the context of politics, history, science, religion, and money converging around the subsets for Kennedy's ghost are all showing up with emotional values at extreme levels. While described as traumatic by the datasets at several different levels, there are also cathartic and cleansing sets in the supporting chain for our shades/ghosts/memories subsets. These shades of the past are indicated to be affecting political officialdom, especially in Washington, D.C., over the rest of the year. These sets have political players and even the whole of the political playing field being altered in these next few months. Many of these sets are indicating that the political elites will be in panic mode so repetitiously as to be feeling as though their momentum has been hijacked. These sets have repercussions from the elite freakouts to be publicly visible and to have very long-term duration of impact values that go out several years. The data sets are forecasting that an accidental disclosure of old information is going to be the pin that will be pulled to ignite the hidden ghosts language in the mainstream and independent media. The data has a small incidental and accidental revealing being a public pry bar to giant caches or large storehouses or big storage centers worth of information of a transforming nature. The alteration pivot is described as being a tail end of a conversation which will have a name-dropping incident become a global viral key. The unlocking of the informational storehouse is also part of the unclogging of the public mind or memory that is going to last for decades. There are a number of new supporting sets to USA Pop for the rebuilding of the social order. These sets are not about the bricks and steel, but rather about the social connections infrastructure. These sets are forecasting on wounding and the challenges of healing. Many of these sets are focusing on the healthcare dysfunction. Other supporting sets continue to forecast the destruction via self-immolation of the Democratic Party. The rebuilding of the social order is apparently going to be done with the Democratic Party as a sideshow. The data sets are forecasting that election problems for the Democrats will begin as early as December of this year as they try to gear up only to suffer repeated breakdowns publicly. These immolation of the Democratic Party sets are growing, gaining emotional values, and have brought in long-term data sets of considerable size in areas from local government out to national politics, and including banking and military-industrial complex. There are many sets going to the idea of pushed, however you say that, cleansing, purging, within the political classes over 2018 and into 2019. These sets are pointing towards committees and deep underground investigations that will be the meat for media, as in like roast beef meat, the meat for media over these years and beyond within USA Pop. There are sets for commissions to be set up to deeply investigate corporate foundations. Many of these sets are pointing toward a new pogrom against un-American activities, forecast to be very riveting and attention demanding for well over a year at least. Markets entity. The data sets for the debt-based market system have the cryptocurrencies going into breakout or breaking free mode against debt-based fiat. These data sets have the crypto space taking over the media chatter as model space has moved through September. Immediacy data lives there, or lives here, and all the way through to the end of March 2018, long-term values reliability peak. The data sets have the cryptocurrencies being in a running mode that will last through into early 2018, late February into March. The longer-term data sets are thereafter indicating that the running mode moves into jumping from that point forward through the extent of the longer-term data, which reaches out into 2019, albeit with decreasing reliability. His data, that is. The markets entity has black swan showing up in the data sets in a number of places and in a number of aspects. The data would have black swan being the new topic of conversation as we move into September. The data has separation of the or at the extremes as being one of the many referenced black swans that will be rising up and hissing. The separation of the extremes, far edges, likely refers to a trading range or metric that has come undone. The effect of the undoing is indicated to be turmoil and thrashing. Both of these sets have supporting sets that include gold and silver and the retail level. But of these sets also have restrictions and withdrawals and constraining bonds as being in the mix. Many of these sets are also supported by discord, disharmony, in other words indicating that the disruption will be focusing on the core level of competency within the markets. Other than the capital flows, the majority of the markets entity has more powerful and smooth or harmonious energies within the markets. While much of the language is about chaos in the markets, destruction in traditional markets, and disrupted marketplaces, these sets are within larger linguistic structures going to new markets, innovation in the markets, and implementation of new ideas, and other language for new opportunities that will be manifesting. Much of the disruption language is about expelling the older system, which is shown as being replaced by the new perspectives on markets and new inventions. Both of these are intensely cross-linked and contain as directly held supporting values cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies. Within the markets entity, the silver and gold sets, silver and gold, are growing in both volume of new supporting sets as well as in emotional tones in all our categories. The recent processing is bringing in both confirmatory sets for disruptions and dissolving of blockages within both silver and gold subsets. The gold sets have also have longer term data forecasting very rapid price rises within the spring season Northern Hemisphere of 2018. These new spring for gold sets are showing a surge in demand, albeit within new markets. The new market sets are clearly forecasting successful new mining to marketplaces ventures that are to be coming online during the eruptive spring of 2018. So my question is, are we talking mining like cryptocurrency mining, or, because there's already some gold and silver crypto things getting ready to come out where you can use cryptos to buy and sell gold and that kind of thing, or at least store them somewhere. Who knows? As model spaces progress through September, the data sets have new demands on the silver supplies being discussed in several significant meetings globally. The wider worldview sets are showing that there is going to be a very large outbursting of new entrepreneurial talent across the mining and, more significantly, end user communities that are defined as silver based. These sets have a silver funnel/siphon/vacuum that will be forming up like a tornado over 2017 that is forecast to produce the insatiable demands that will arise with the silver surprise spring in 2018. Many of the sets for silver and gold are extensively cross-linked to cryptocurrencies, and those links grow as model space is progressed into mid-2018. Many new sets, and I'm going to stop for a second. Actually, no, let me finish. I got two paragraphs. Let me finish. I'll go back to this. Many new sets within the combined precious metal subsets include many indicators of the gradual capitulation to cryptocurrencies. This is not a bad thing at all. The data sets are indicating that precious metals and cryptocurrencies will be blending across the happy fall Northern Hemisphere period of the equinox, and that the fall season will be very good for the ripening of this blended energy fusion. Many new sets continue to cast disruptive technology or disruptive technological innovations within both the end user sector and the mining sector for precious metals. Other attributes of the disruptive changes include the communications among gold and silver communities. These are indicated to be greatly improved over September and October, such that proclamations of a united front will be visible over these months, and the blending of precious metals and cryptocurrencies into a sound money cohort becomes globally visible. Immediacy data sets are indicating that market moving language will be hitting the media on the 16th to the 24th of September. These sets contain descriptors for law and authority and maritime law. There are sets for practical and commitments and delayed acceptable somehow. All of these sets are within the larger market set, are within the supporting aspect sets for shocks and overload. There are sets within the details that suggest that the language overburden will be sending German traders out to Oktoberfest with no intention of returning to work that day or sober. This is not to say that the data is predicting market crashes, but rather that the burdens of the language are pointing to a large challenge suddenly visible. So let me go back to where I was. As model space has progressed through September, the datasets have new demands on the silver supplies being discussed in several significant meetings globally. The wider worldview sets are showing that there is going to be a very large outbursting of new entrepreneurial talent across the mining and, more significantly, end user communities that are defined as silver based. These sets have a silver funnel siphon vacuum that will be forming up like a tornado over 2017 that is forecast to produce the insatiable demands that will arise with the silver surprise spring in 2018. Many of the sets for silver and gold are extensively cross-linked to cryptocurrencies, and those links grow as model space is progressed into mid-2018. So what I was going to say is these things might be making the COMEX, the LBMA completely obsolete. Gold and silver may finally break free, and it may be because of blockchain technology. No futures contracts, it just becomes obsolete. No one pays attention anymore. We don't set the price that way anymore. You want it, you get it through here. Miners directly to sellers, miners directly to companies that can mint the coins, whatever, blockchain technology. So I know there's 2 or 3 metals ICO things that I've heard about. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get into those or not. To be honest with you, I'm not sure. Not that it would be a bad thing, per se, anything related to that, but I want to know what they're about. I'm gonna do a little research on them first of all. So I guess what I'm saying, I haven't picked one and jumped on it. I want to do a little research on that, see if maybe it might be worthy for you and I, etc., to quite possibly get into and ride that coin up. You know what I mean? So that's what I was gonna say. Just wanted to talk about that. But again, if you don't have metals, man, we got 5,000 years of history or more that say they're money, they're valuable, and we're in a period of history right now where it's been completely manipulated down. And when these things are finally let loose, they're gonna freaking explode. And there is a deal at sdbullion.com where you can get a 10-ounce silver bar at spot price, no premium. It's sdbullion.com/jsnip4. New customers only, though, from what they've said. If you want to click the link directly in the description box of this video and all my videos, I have it at the very bottom. sdbullion.com/jsnip4. Take advantage, man. Take advantage. Because if this stuff finally explodes, and the webbot's been talking about for a long time that it does, and it just hasn't happened, and it still hasn't happened, and it still hasn't happened. But when it does, you don't want to be on the other side of that. You don't want to get in when it's exploding. Right now is a good time. $17 silver, believe me. Anyways, take care.